like, oh shit, I was gonna tell you shooting star.
Shooting star, but then it
And then
stopped,
it's
huh?
gone.
Yeah, let me zoom in, man. It's like an orb, man. Look at that shit. It's pulsating. Oh, this is awesome. And he's not on TCAS, man.
Huh.
Well, I can tell Rita now.
That's interesting.
That is, dude. That is shit hot.
Welcome, UAP Society and Lato Files. I'm Chris Lato, retired F-16 pilot. I'm here with Captain Erik Delgado. He has a lot of experience, over 30 years flying commercial airplanes. He is also in the air. He was an Air Force veteran, and he has seen as an amazing video, not just seen an orb, but he has the video. And I'm just so happy to talk to you now, Erik, and get your take on it. Hopefully, I can ask some interesting questions with my pilot background, so we can draw out a little bit more and share this this amazing story. So thank you so much for speaking up.
Absolutely. I'm glad to be here.
Excellent. Are you on a trip now?
Yeah, I sure am. I'm in Panama City, Panama. I was in the Air Force active duty for 10 years and allowed me to come here a few times throughout that time. And then I've been with my current job at the cargo outfit for 21 years. And in those 21 years, I've been here on the 727 as a second officer, first officer on that airplane as well. And then as a captain on the 757, and now as a captain on the 767. In the Air Force, I was a tanker pilot, and I was 10 years active duty. 1 year of that, obviously, at pilot training. I went to Williams Air Force Base. And then the remainder 9, I was a KC-135R co-pilot, then aircraft commander, and then instructor pilot. And then I did that until I separated from active service in April of 2001.
Okay, 2001. So you never would have tanked me. I started flying in 2001, but didn't hit a tanker until 2002 or 3. I flew F-16s, so KC-135s tanked off you guys a lot.
Yeah, exactly. I did many coronet drags with you boys. So
yeah, that's where you go overseas, I guess. Flying across the ocean.
Yeah, east, west, whatever. We got that ALTRAV. It stands for altitude reservation, and we'll stack you guys in there with us, and we'll drag you. Sometimes we're in the multi-cell. We're 2, 3, 4 tankers, and we've got a little strike package with us. And that was, I tell you what, being a tanker pilot was a lot of fun.
When I was going through pilot training, that was like the cool job, actually. Everybody's like,
everybody was like, I think. See, I went to Willie in January of '92 and graduated the following January, and they went through and during phase 1, the physiological training portion of it, and basically sat, the whole class down and said, okay, what do you want? What do you want? And went through everybody. It was like 90% of us, fighter, occasional heavy, fighter, heavy. And then they laid the reality, okay, nobody's getting fighters, half of you are getting bangs. So I'll tell you what, I got the second to last jet in the drop, and we wound up being 60% banked the entire drop for across the 5 bases. It was a bad time in the economy. As a matter of fact, even the NJet boys on their drop were getting heavies too. So I just wanted a piece of metal. I didn't care. I mean, truth be told, I didn't want a 130 if that was it. Anything else, I didn't care.
I wanted to fly 130 actually.
Did you?
I went to Navy pilot training, and I remember I was doing a simulator with this old crusty, sim instructor. Probably the same guy. He's a Marine. He's like, "Why the hell would you fly a C-130? You want to be flying fast, shooting gun." And I was like, "Okay," and that was it. He changed, from there.
He changed your mind.
But was it a difficult transition going from the military over to civilian?
Actually. Let me see. I wouldn't say difficult. It was probably the only difficulty would be knowing that I wasn't going to be in a window seat, at the controls for at least a year. I wound up doing that for 2 years, 1 year by choice, because most of my time was military. And I wanted to make sure I knew what I was doing and had a good comfort level in civil aviation. So I elected to stay in the backseat an extra year. So I did a total of 2 years in the backseat. But I was one of those guys at FedEx that never bid the same thing twice. And it would just drive me nuts, the monotony of it.
That's a flight engineer when you're in the back seat.
Yes. So FE, flight engineer. So I started out at FedEx and did that 2 years. I went international. I did domestic, day, night. It didn't matter. I did everything. So I had to have a pretty good feel for where I was going to go next. And that's kind of what I did. So from there, I went from the back seat to the right seat of the MD-11. But I had to go up to Anchorage for 2 years. I was the only right seat I could get at the time.
Okay. Yeah, I went to Eielson for 4 years. We were chatting about that. So, well, excellent. Eric. So, before the sighting, had you seen anything? What was your take, I guess, on UAPs in general?
No. I mean, I kind of always believed in them. I mean, I knew they were out there. I just thought I would never witness one. And probably the strangest phenomena I ever witnessed in the cockpit was I was a mid-level co-pilot, right-seater in the 135, and we were doing we had just completed an air refueling out over Bermuda, and we hit a C5. Well, I shouldn't say hit. We passed some gas to a C5.
A lot of gas.
And
you passed
yeah, exactly. So did that, and when we turned back to head back toward the mainland U.S. coast, because he was continuing on to Africa. We were on autopilot. The INS, back then the planes we had were not glass airplanes yet. They hadn't been converted. So we had a traditional one INS, you had a DNS, and then you had a navigator in the back seat. So the navigator was running the navigation. The autopilot was coupled to the INS. The 135 is an old airplane. It was, conceived in the 50s. I flew a couple airplanes that were older than myself. So I was born in 67. The oldest airplane I flew was 1956. So you had some really old technology there, and we had two compass systems. We had an N1 and a J4. So the J4 is World War II. N1 would be later.
Yeah.
And as we clipped the corner of the Bermuda Triangle, we hit some clouds, and the sun was setting or low in the sky to our left. So we were flying northwest, and it was setting toward the left. And as we went through the clouds, they were just thick enough to block the horizon, yet you could see the sun coming through. But they were thin enough so that you could do that. And then they had enough water vapor in it. Basically what happened is, all of a sudden, on the right side of the aircraft, looking out the window, we had a mirror image of what we were looking at on the left, and we all freaked out. Just about that time, the J4 started spinning. It was lost. It was wandering. The whiskey compass was wandering. The N1, however, it kind of was still holding heading, but it was bouncing like left, right. It wanted to go. It was still holding there. The INS was tight, and the navigator, I remember reaching over to my J4 slave switch, and I was going to, kind of like control delete type thing, go to direct gyro and then back to slave. And the nav screamed at me. He goes, "Don't touch it." He goes, "We're in the triangle. It's a magnetic anomaly. The INS is fine. We're fine. I know where we are. Just don't touch anything." And we witnessed this with our boom operator. So the four of us in the cockpit for about 3 minutes.
Wow.
And I was like, "Holy smokes! Well, no wonder why people get lost in the triangle. They lose their whiskey compass if they're in the clouds and something like this happens. And here they are thinking, oh, we're gonna go this way, and they see two suns. Well, I guess this one's right, and they make a wrong turn, which is easy to do, and then they run out of fuel, man. And we were just looking at each other, going for 3 minutes, going, holy smokes! It was a mirror image of what we were seeing on the left. And until that point, that was probably the strangest phenomena I encountered in an aircraft.
And when you say mirror image, so I'm trying to imagine this. So you're looking off to the left, and you see kind of those thin clouds. I just saw it there. We're flying in Brussels, and kind of see the sun. You can look at it, So you see that on the left side. Everything starts spinning, and then you look to the right, and you see like another sun over there with another.
Absolutely. With, like I said, it was thick enough where you couldn't see the horizon. but the sun with its power could penetrate through the clouds. So it was thin enough there that the water vapor in the cloud, I guess, created some type of a prism, a mirror, if you will, because it was perfect. It was the same thing to the right, and we were just stunned. And it was like having two suns in your face.
It's interesting. Dude,
One to the left, on the northwest side, and one on the northeast side, out the right window. And it was a perfect, like, 90 degrees, if you could imagine a 90-degree out the window, left and right. And we were just like, this is the freakiest thing we've ever seen. Not to mention you had all this stuff happening with the instrumentation,
That's super.
But thank God we had a nav.
Well, the INS, right, is not magnetic because it should be laser.
Exactly. Yeah, you know the coordinates.
Navigation.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we deal with them, all the fighters, military, I guess civilian aircraft, INS.
Yep.
But before GPS, it was a huge pain because you would have to update the
Updates. Absolutely. You're right. You're absolutely right. Whereas the DNS was constantly wandering, the nav was constantly having to bring it back in. The INS would take a while to drift, and then he would do his navigation skills to recage it, if you will, and bring it back in. But he would do that.
But it was naturally drifting, but it doesn't sound like it was as affected. So the magnetic.
Yeah, no. So the INS was perfect. The only anomalies were magnetic for the whiskey compass and my J4 compass. And again, like the N1 was kind of like bobbing, going left, right, left, like a couple of degrees, plus or minus 3 degrees. But it was pretty much staying on that heading. But had we not had an inertial navigation system and we'd done something stupid like say, the sun should be over here and made a, 90 to 120 degree turn to put that sun over here,
If you're flying at night, I mean, it's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah. But I could see where people, if all their instrumentation wandered or drifted like that, and all of a sudden they found themselves in that situation, I could see where they could turn using their visual senses and then fly a couple 100 miles, or maybe just, 50, 60 miles, enough to take them out of the way. And then when they pop out, realize where they're at, and then try and correct back. But by that time, you've run out of gas, and you're ditching the airplane at that point. That's got to be a sick feeling, So,
especially before GPS. I mean, now there's GPS. It sounds like 3 minutes, right? Did it go away? The visual illusion went away as well, along with
Yeah, so after 3 minutes, the clouds thinned out even more. We lost the water vapor, and then the whole apparition just disappeared, and the sun was where it originally was. And we said, okay, that was the real one. This was an anomaly. And like I said, we were stunned. We were just looking at each other like, oh, that's really awesome. That was cool. It's something we can tell our buddies when we go back home. But like I said, in my 10 years of active duty flying, I had never encountered anything strange. That was it. And then I'm in my current job. I've been in there 21 years, going on 22 years. And what I witnessed back in March of 2020 up to that point, I mean, that was the only phenomenon up to that point I had experienced anything like that. And again, it's when you least expect it,
Yeah, well, I haven't seen anything yet, so I'm expecting and nothing showed up. But I would say one last point on that is the whiskey compass that's the backup backup.
Yes,
right, where it's just in liquid. It's like
that's like the worst of the worst. You're having a bad day if all you have is the whiskey compass, because it's going to precess. You're going to have to compensate for the magnetic variation. If you're trying to,
you have to set it. And in the simulator, you always have to fly off that thing like every time.
Yep.
The point is that's separate from the other magnetic compass you were talking about, right? Your normal.
Yes.
Compass.
The J4 and the N1, absolutely. The J4, its system sat in the right side of the aircraft, the right wing root. The N1 was on the left side. And then the INS, obviously, that's built into the gyros that sat behind us, and then nav took care of all that. We didn't mess with the INS unless we coupled to it through the autopilot on nav, and that's what we were doing that day, obviously. And so that was the INS and the navigator, obviously, because he's running all that, kept us straight and true. And like I said, we popped out of it, and it was just it was a really weird experience, but it was up until that point, and the remainder of my time in the Air Force, that was the only anomaly I'd ever witnessed.
And I know the NARCAP. Have you heard of NARCAP?
Yeah, yes, I have. Before March of 2020, no.
Okay.
After, yes.
If you ever reported that event, because actually they have out of the orb events specifically, I think there was like four that they had tracked. They did have anomalies like that where it would interfere with navigation equipment or something like that. But on this orb one, you didn't see any of that, right? I don't remember any of that.
No, if it were not for my first officer, because he and I were having a conversation, and I'll relay the whole thing, but let me just throw this out there. If it were not for my first officer looking toward me as we're having a conversation with the thunderstorm light on, or the full cockpit lights on, full bright, as we're at 37,000 feet with the autopilot hooked up to the FMS, which now is going to incorporate. We have I think 2 or 3 INSs or 2 GPSs, 3 INSs. They pull together to blend a solution, and then that becomes your flight management system. But anyway, he's the one that spotted it, and it had not been for him, we could have easily missed this thing.
Okay, well, let's watch it. We got Danny has it queued up right now, so let's go ahead and hit play, Dan.
It's like, oh shit, I was gonna tell you shooting star.
Shooting star, but then it stopped, huh? Yeah, let me zoom in, man. It's like an orb, man. Look at that shit. It's pulsating. Oh, this is awesome. And he's not on TCAS, man.
Huh.
Well, I can tell Rita now.
That's interesting.
That is, dude. That is shit hot. Platillos, platillos. He's a pulsating orb. Look at that, dude. Look at that.
Yeah, so let me start by saying you're hearing excitement and the emotions that I'm going through. That was like after 4 or 5 minutes. So I'll tell you right now, up until that point, I was sucking some serious seat cushion because I thought what we had encountered was another aircraft. So I'll go back a little bit. I'm flying with my first officer, who I'll call John, and so John and I were fortunate enough to fly the whole month together, which is a rare occurrence in my current profession. You'll fly a month's worth of trips and maybe fly with the same guy twice, And so this month he and I drew Toluca and Querétaro, both Mexican destinations in our bid, and he was on probation at the time. So an at-will employee probation, he was in his first year of employment, and we're flying the whole month together. And so I said, hey, I'll show you all the cool places to go on layovers, and if you have any questions on operations, hey, now's your time. I always open myself up to these new guys, because it's like, look, the more questions you ask and don't sit there and think you know everything, the better captain you're going to be. He and I had a really good rapport throughout the whole month. We're getting along really well. And it was my leg that night going from Querétaro, Mexico to back to Memphis. And we had just had a 36-hour layover in QRO in Querétaro. Oh, it was gorgeous. It was great. I missed those trips. Anyway, and so we had picked our way through some weather on the climb to flight level 370. And got through that portion of it. And in the distance, I could see other weather that probably in about 10 or 15 minutes we were going to have to deal with. And let me just throw this in there as well. About that time on my TCAS, I saw another aircraft 2,000 feet below us on a converging path. And I knew that was another flight. I knew the captain. Actually, I knew the crew on that flight. I had seen them 2 days prior in Toluca. We all had dinner. And one of the things we mentioned, I go, hey, we're going to take off at this time. We're flight 82. He goes, yeah, we're 54. And I go, okay. If I happen to see you guys out there or here, let's go fingers on the secondary radios. Caribbean Common fingers 123.45. And we'll have a conversation or whatever. Yeah, no problem. So I see this guy on TCAS, and I go up to Caribbean Common. It took about 2 or 3 calls on the open radio on the VHF, and he answers me. And so he's retired. He retired last year. So he and I are having this conversation, and he, first thing he said was like, "Hey, that weather, to your left," he goes, "Are you guys, how's your ride?" And that's how good these systems are. They'll put the aircraft on the nav display, and I think you can see them as far out as like 80 miles, if I'm not mistaken. And he was like, "I see you guys are approaching this storm." He goes, "What's the weather like?" I'm like, "Dude, don't even worry about it. We're not even, it's like occasional light chop, not even full light turbulence. And the closest we're going to get to this thing is like maybe, 30, 40 miles. You guys would be well clear of it by the time we converge, our paths converge." And we were all headed for the same entry point, which is near Brownsville, Texas, MAM, the vortex. So we're on this converging path. We picked our way through the weather. It wasn't going to be an issue. I turned on the cockpit lights full bright, the thunderstorm switch, if you know, what have you, and proceed to eat my catering. I'm having a conversation with my first officer, and I'm like, "Hey, next, we're flying again in about another 10 days. I go, we're gonna have a weekend in Toluca. I'll show you around. If you're interested, maybe if the weather's good. I've always wanted to go to Teotihuacan and go to the pyramid complex. If the weather's good, let's try to do that. Are you interested?" And he's like, "Yeah, we're, talking about what we're going to do." And just about that time, I see his eyes kind of move to the right, and they get about, big. His eyes open up wide, and he's like, "Oh, look at the shooting star." And he stops, and, right there, he didn't get the word star out. And I'm looking at him going, what the hell's wrong with this kid? What's he looking at? And he's not a kid. The guy did 20 years as an F-15, I think, pilot in the Air Force. So he did a full 20. Experienced guy as well. Anyway, so I'm looking at him going, what's he looking at, And I turned and I look over my shoulder, his eyes were telegraphing where he was looking. So I look over my left shoulder, and all of a sudden I looked up at probably about a 30-degree angle. It's like right there, man. It had to have been a few thousand feet away from us. And I was like, oh my God, it's another aircraft. And, he's got a vector and he's turning into us, and my heart's racing because I'd had an RA a few months prior on the East Coast of Florida. And those things will get your heart pumping. Even right now, my heart's starting to elevate.
What's an RA?
I'm sorry. Resolution advisory. Basically, the traffic alert and collision avoidance systems on our airplanes will deconflict you. And if you're within 45 seconds to a minute of imminent collision, you'll get a caution. Proximity traffic. Then it goes to yellow caution, and then a red, hey, do something. And it's telling you what to do. It screams at you. So here I am going, oh my God, it's another airplane. The reason I thought that is I look out at just like in the video, if you can imagine a lighthouse in some thin fog as it's rotating, and you see the light going, across the horizon. This thing gets a light on, it hits the nose of the aircraft, flashes through the cockpit windows, and it kind of runs down the fuselage of the airplane. And at this point, I drop whatever it was I was eating. I grab the throttles, I grab the yoke, and getting ready to disconnect them. I'm looking down at my instruments. I'm looking for, commands of to descend. I'm expecting to hear oral, traffic, descend now. The whole system will work in concert to avoid a collision, because that's what I thought was happening. I thought an airplane was turning into us, and my heart's racing, and I look in my nav display, and there's nothing. Nothing. And I'm like, what? And so I take the range down to minimum, which is, you go to minimum, it's like the whole entire screen is 5 miles, and it puts us in the center, obviously, every time. It's just the range changes, and there's nothing there, and we'll even get commands in the HUD, and there's nothing in the HUD, and my heart's racing, and I'm like, look at this clown, he's turning into us. And I remember saying that to him, and I said, turn out the thunderstorm light, because I didn't know what the hell was going on. And so he turns the light off, and I'm still on, because I didn't want to touch anything else other than the yoke and the throttles, man. That's it. Because
So Erik, you mentioned you're talking to your co-pilot here, and you had the thunderstorm lights full up. So
yes,
this is the full lighting, basically. Is this thunderstorm lights up or down?
No, right here, the lights off, and the lighting that's in the cockpit are the instrumentation only. So this would be your classic night flying. However, I don't fly with them this bright. They're kind of dumbed down.
Yeah, that's then, because you're able to see this light, or the co-pilot does first. it must have been really bright. Is my
Yes.
you're eating your dinner, right? So you're in the cockpit, and for me, night vision goggles, we would fly with night vision goggles, but it would take about 20 minutes before my night vision would get accustomed, to land. You have to do it 5 minutes before you got to remove your night vision goggles. But for you guys, your night vision's totally blown at this point. I'm guessing once you turn up that thunderstorm lights and then you have the lights on, I guess.
Yeah, it's going to take, and even the instrumentation, it takes a few minutes for the light emitting diodes that receive the ambient lighting to make the self adjustments. Now you can override it to make it go quicker, but usually we'll give it a few minutes for that process to complete. But it's the same thing with the rods and cones in your eyes. It's going to take a little while. If you really, it's not very quick.
So I guess when the co-pilot, when you see his eyes just light up, and he kind of looks off to the side and his eyes light up, it must have been bright, I guess. And you say it's right there. It must have been very bright.
Yeah, it was, if you probably stared at it for longer than a few seconds, you would probably have a burn in your retina for a little while, kind of like looking at the sun for a little bit and then turning away. It was extremely bright, which is, and then it's moving and I was like, oh my God, we're going to have an imminent collision. And so up to this point, I'm thinking this is another aircraft, and there was no excitement other than, oh my God, look at this clown, he's turning into us. Is this guy for real? I think I said that. And then, a few minutes go by and the orb kind of backs off a little bit distance wise. And then it kind of starts sliding aft real slow, almost like a lead change, like we used to do in when we used to fly what we called cell formation. You pass the lead to the next guy. And so the flight lead is going to, pull his power and slowly slide back and let the other guy take in, and move into position. That's kind of the movement this thing was doing. And then it parked itself off our left wingtip. And it was about that time. It took me like about 3 minutes to get to my senses. Like, am I looking at what I think I'm looking at? And at that point, I'm like, okay, I need to paint this guy on radar. Is this real? And he was out of it. I waited too long. Again, I thought it was an airplane, and he was out of my cone. We've got about 170-degree cone in front of the airplane where the radar can look out. I mean, it's a pretty wide cone. And he was out of that because now he was at my 9 to 8 o'clock. And I'm like, and I was told from some of the people that interviewed me over, because I've done several interviews, that this plasma ball of light, whatever, that somehow they're able even to foil radar. And all I said was, well, that's probably true. I wouldn't know because this is my first experience with it, but I would have liked the opportunity to paint this guy because even with a color weather radar, I can paint other airplanes. That's how good the radar is on this airplane.
Oh, excellent. Okay, yeah.
But it was too late. Yeah, he was out of my field of view at that point. And because like I said, I was waiting for this TCAS to scream at me to descend and, decelerate and turn away from whatever the imminent collision we were about to have, but it never happened. It never screamed, it never talked. We never had the visual cues either. And at that point, I'm getting excited. I'm thinking, am I looking at what I think I'm looking at? Where's my camera? So I dive into my bag and I pull out my Samsung 9S I had at the time. Fantastic camera on that phone. And I started rolling the video. And that was the long video I had, the initial one. And I explained to people, they're like, yeah, you sent us all your clips and video stills and clips. He goes, what's going on there? And I said, yeah. Let me explain. I initially shot a video that was almost 5 minutes long. And then we lost this thing in the weather. So we thought it was gone. So I stopped recording. And then he and I were talking and I'm trying to send him, he had an iPhone. I have my Samsung. I'm trying to send him the stuff. It's too big. It won't do it. I'm like, dude, we'll have to wait till we land and maybe I can Google it to you or something. And, we're looking at the video and that was the other thing. So we're looking at the video, the replay, and we're seeing features and we're like, look at this, look, this is awesome. Because up until that point with your naked eye, it just was bright, dim. And it was very cyclic. It didn't waver. And that's all you could see. But as I was holding the camera every now and then, that was the other thing too, the camera kind of moves. That wasn't turbulence. I mean, we were in pretty smooth air. It was me, every now and then looking with my eyeball, and I would, I was moving the camera. This thing was parked, Chris. It was solid. It was like in formation with us.
How accurate do you think this was? This History Channel simulation here they did.
It was fairly accurate because it, like I said, the first 3 minutes, the thing stopped. My first officer again saw the whole thing. He thought it was a shooting star, except it didn't keep going or it didn't pop, and explode. It just whacked and it just stopped right there. Then I turned around, saw it, and this thing, I guess, popped out of hyperspace or another dimension, whatever. I don't think it knew we were there either, and that's why it rotated, because you couldn't distinguish the front or the aft of this vehicle. Whatever it was, it was just a bright ball of light, bright dim. It wasn't until I'm looking through the lens of the camera as I'm filming it, or when I replay it, that we start to see a teardrop shape, and that's kind of what I was saying in that video. Look, it's a teardrop as I'm looking through my camera, and then I'm looking with my eyeballs again, and I don't see that with my eyeballs. You just didn't see it. It was bright dim. So the camera on this thing was amazing.
And so I guess how did it look different from the video? I guess you just described it. So here, it didn't look like that in person.
No, it just looked like a round, bright dim flashing light. And the initial sweep of that, whatever it was, like call it a spotlight, whatever, that had since gone. That was initial, right at the initial encounter. That was no longer.
And swept through you one time?
Yes. It was almost like, it's like the guy popped out of hyperspace or whatever, and it's like, hey, my sensors are picking up something. What's that? And it rotated, and it shone its light over the nose of the airplane, ran it all the way down the fuselage. And again, the light was bright enough that it entered the cockpit too, which is why I thought it was another airplane in its landing lights with a vector towards us. Because as you know, Chris, being a pilot, as you approach the terminal environment and go to land on a runway, and you're following a guy. And if you got like, little atmospheric anomalies out there, whether it be fog or low scattered clouds, as he's making that turn to final, you're going to see his lights are telegraphing what the airplane's doing. It's turning. Exactly. So in my mind, this guy had a vector and was coming right at us. And I just, man, it sent a chill up my spine. So I tell you, the first 3 minutes of that thing, my heart was racing. I was scared. It wasn't until I started filming, and then I'm realizing what's going on, and and then it turned to excitement. And that's what you hear in the voice, start to finish. Like I said, we lost it in the weather. And then when we popped out on the other side of the weather, because, even though we were 40 miles from the core of this thunderstorm, the anvil on it, I guess, had projected some clouds out. We were going through some scattered cirrus clouds, but they were thick enough that we lost it. And so we came out the other side. We're looking at the video. We're talking about, like, hey, when we land, give me a copy of that. And I'm like, dude, you were a fighter pilot. You guys had more pattern recognition training than we did. What was that? He goes, I don't know. He goes, two things. One, I don't know what it was. And two, I want to copy that video.
Okay, so
I'm sorry?
Same idea, the same impression on it, that it was just totally anomalous.
Yeah, it was. There were no wings, no tail, no fuselage, empennage, no nav light, beacon light, strobe lights, no contrails. No sound, because, when I would refuel against you guys, typically, most of my refuelings were against, I did a variety of airplanes, all the way from the F-111s when they were still in service, F-4s, all the way to the B-2.
You could hear, you said it sounds?
Yes. If it's close enough, you can hear the thrust of the, because those guys would like to get in nice and tight, and that's fine by me, just don't hit me.
Yes.
And so you'll hear the thrust of the engine, and this one there was no sound. There was nothing. I mean, that was probably as stealthy as it was going to be, because obviously it was bright, but you couldn't hear anything. You couldn't see any contrails. You didn't know where it was going and where it was coming, because it was just a bright light flashing bright, then same pattern, same cycle. It never wavered. And it wasn't until we looked at the video and afterwards, or if you were filming it, you could see it. So as we're talking about this, we come out the weather on the other side. I just casually looked over my shoulder, and I'm like, oh man, he's still there. Boom, I shut the light off again, and I roll another video clip.
Radar directed to our left? Not really.
It's like he's going further away, man. Yeah, I'm zooming in and he's pulling away, dude. And he's turning colors too. He's pulling away. Yeah, that was weird.
You went into the weather, you couldn't see it anymore?
No, he couldn't see it anymore, and that's why I panned in. And all the investigators told me, dude, he goes, "Thank you for doing that. You had the presence of mind to show your instrumentation." So I kind of I panned back in at the end of the video clip, and I had zoomed in a little bit. So now I backed out the zoom, and I'm like, okay, there's our airplane, and I'm explaining, to the video, because I figured, man, I got to show this to my wife. She's gonna freak, As it was, I was freaking out. Everybody's freaking out, and I'm going to show my buddies when I land back at home drome.
And you're trying on a radar. You paint this thing, right? Is that when you're trying and get painted?
No, it never got in front of us. So I think this guy knew we had some kind of what do you want to call it? We were spitting electrons out the front of the airplane, if you will. This thing must have known that, and it wasn't going to go in front of us again. There was like no way, no chance in hell. And I told this to some of the investigators. I said, because everybody wanted a sense of what it was like to be there. Aside from the excitement, throw that out. Seeing this thing and watching it move back real slow, I said, look, have you ever been, I know they have. I knew what the answer was, but I had to let it out. I said, have you ever been in a party or a gathering and you casually go to the restroom and you come back and you left your fly zips, and you're like, whoa, and so either somebody brought it to your attention or you recognized, or realize, oh, my fly's undone, holy smokes, and you casually, you're real cool, you reach down, you're looking around, okay, nobody's seeing it, I'll put my fly up, and then it's over, right? Nobody saw, unless whoever it was that alerted you, hey man, your fly's down. That's what this was like. That's what this was like. This thing popped out of hyperspace, sat there, obviously shone a light on us, like, what the hell is this? I mean, I'm sure we probably stunned him as much as we were stunned, and then after like 3 minutes, it realized, oh, I need to get out of this guy's field of view a bit, whatever it is that's, and then because our radar is good enough that I can section 1,000-foot increments in front of me, so it'll tell me exactly my flight level. And the reason they do this, they want to know, are we going to clear that weather or not?
Now, whether we would actually use it, poor man's weather radar, we would use a fighter radar, in manual mode and try and see, but it's not nearly as what you get.
Yeah, this radar is bar none the best radar I've ever had. Even in the military, ours, we had what was called fan and pencil, and this thing, the pencil on it is so accurate. It'll section and it'll tell you too, flight level, whatever you're looking at. It'll say, okay, you want to look down, you go down and you put it in that mode, and it'll tell you, you're looking at flight level 200. This is what's in front of you at this distance you have on the radar. I mean, the thing is incredible,
Yeah, and so what you see over there on the screen there. So I guess this is the weather.
Okay, so yeah, so look at the screen. Right now, I'm in the full mode. I'm not in flight level mode. If you look to the left, you'll see the waypoint, or I'm sorry, to the left of the waypoint AWAS, you'll see the weather there.
Yep.
Notice how the green is kind of like hashed. Anything that's hashed on a weather return is telling you, I'm below your altitude. I am below your altitude. I'm not a threat. Anything solid is now going to present itself without any hash marks like that yellow and red. That is either at or above your altitude. Watch out.
Excellent. And so that shows how far to the left it can see, right? Because off your nose, it looks like a little bit past 90 degrees.
Well, as it sweeps from left to right, it's a 170-degree cone in front. It's that steep. I mean, 170 degrees is pretty good.
Yeah, so almost 90 degrees on both sides.
Either side, almost, absolutely. Yeah.
Flanker.
So this thing was no longer in that field of view where I could have painted a metallic object to try and get a reflection off it, to know, hey, is this another airframe? I mean, what the hell am I looking at? So I'm running the second clip. My FO's like, all right, stop it. So that's why that clip was only like a minute and a half long, because he wanted me to send it to him. So I stopped the clip, and as I stopped it, I'm like, hold on, I'm going to take some still pictures. So I took 9 still photographs of this thing.
Okay.
And then I go, okay, dude, I'm going to run another. Oh, I tried to send him the video then real quick, and it was still too big. I'm like, oh, dude, I need to run 2 more video clips. So then I ran 2 more. One was like 45 seconds, and one was 30 seconds. And I was able to send those to him cross cockpit. And then obviously that was at the end of the encounter. Now, from start to finish, it was about 25 minutes, Chris. I mean, this thing hung with us for a long time, and so fast forward here as we're approaching the U.S. airspace, the ADIS. The first officer's like, "Hey, Captain Delgado." I'm like, "Yeah, what's up?" And he goes, "Are you gonna report this?" And I kind of look over. I knew where he was going with it, and I'm like, "Well, it depends why." And he goes, "Hey, man, I'm on probation. I just want to stay out of it. You know, I don't want to ruffle any feathers. I got a great career. I'm hoping to have a great career like you, and I'd rather not have anything to do with this." And I'm like, "Yeah, dude, don't worry about it." I go, "But I'll tell you what, I'll make you a deal." I go, "We're approaching the Reynosa Harlingen border, you know, near Matamoros, the entry point." I said, "If this thing follows us in the U.S. airspace, we're going to be talking to Houston Center here in a second. I'm going to ask Houston if he can paint him." And dude, if the controller talks back and we're talking through this, I'm going to have to file some paperwork if this guy follows us into U.S. airspace. If not, like, we'll just let it be, okay? And I kid you not, a few minutes prior to entering the airspace, that's the last video clip. This thing started changing colors, and then it.
I'll do a 30-second one, all right?
Yeah, sure.
It's turning colors now. Are there any clouds over there? I didn't see any.
Took off. I saw it leave. So he saw it enter, and I saw it leave. And it probably left as fast as he saw it came in. I'm guessing. I don't know for a fact, because, again, I didn't see it drop out of hyperspace or whatever. And then the encounter was over. And I was like, that's SOB, man. He knew where the U.S. airspace was. He probably knew where the Houston Center radar coverage was. Gone. A few minutes later, we got a radio transfer from Monterey Center to Houston Center, and I didn't say a word. I looked at him like, "All right, dude, that's the deal we made. I'm not going to report anything." And so the only reason people found out about it is I landed back in Memphis, and I saw some buddies. I said, "Come here, man. I need to show you something." And I showed them all my photos and clips, and everybody was flabbergasted. They're like, "Oh my God." And this one guy, Mark, you know, friend of mine, a good dude, he was like, "Eric, you got to file a report, man." And I'm like, "Nah, I'm not doing it." I told him, you know, I said, "Look, I made a deal with him, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I'm not doing it." And so he's like, "Hey, do you mind, can you send me what you can? And do you mind if I post it on my Facebook page?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not on social media, by the way. I think I'm in LinkedIn, and that's it." And that was years ago. And I hardly look at it. But anyway, I go, "Yeah, man, you know, knock yourself out, do what you want to do." So he posts it on his Facebook page, and then some of his buddies, other pilot buddies, I don't know, because this guy was ex-Navy, take it, and then some dude throws it on the internet, and then apparently this thing went viral or whatever, you know, I guess, whatever that means. I guess it gets a lot of hits or whatever. And I was like, whatever. And so 10 days later, here I am in that weekend in Toluca with my same first officer, and we're recounting the whole thing. We're showing some guys at where we went out to dinner with another crew. We're like, "Hey, man, look at this. You know, this is what we saw." And that night, I get a text from Mark, and he's like, "Eric, man, you got to file a report." And I'm like, "Nah, dude, I'm not doing it. I told you I'm not doing it." He goes, No, not with the FAA, man." He goes, "With MUFON." And I'm like, "MUFON, who's that?" And he goes, and he's a member. I didn't know he was a member. It's a Mutual UFO Network. He goes, "You got to file this." I'm like, "Well, yeah, it's a UFO, but are you sure?" And he goes, "Yeah, man, you've got it, Eric. I'm telling you," he goes, "because I couldn't get your big videos, but I posted some of the smaller ones, and they're flying all over the internet." He goes, "Dude, you need to take credit for what you saw. You need to put it out there." I said, okay. I'll do that. So he sends me the link on the text, and I file a report that weekend, and I upload all my stuff from Toluca, Mexico into their database. And 2 weeks later, I get a call from Bob Sparing, who at the time was one of their lead investigators. Now he got promoted, and he runs like their international operation. He's a pretty big wig in that whole organization. Now, Bob Sparing, great guy, really world-class investigator. And he calls me up, and actually, it was a call, or I think it was an email. Yeah, it was an email. So he emails me and said, "Hey, do you mind if we talk?" And this was, again, 2 weeks after that report. So it's almost been like a month after the sighting. And that's kind of where the whole thing just took off. And we had about 3 conversations total over a span of like 10 days. I sent him everything I had again. Apparently during that time, that 2-week time period, they took it to their experts. They're washing it through all this software hey, can we interview your first officer? I'm like, yeah, I don't think that he's gonna have a problem. Let me contact him. So I called up John and I said, hey man, here's what's going on, blah blah blah. And he was petrified. He's like, dude, well, what do you want me to say? And I'm like, dude, just tell him the truth. I'm not gonna tell you to lie or force feed or tell you what to say. Just tell him the truth. These people are legit. Here's who he is. Blah blah blah. Can I give him your info? And then you can talk to him. And you can decide if you want to, interview or whatever. He's okay, no problem. So I passed the info to Bob, and then Bob did some stuff with him on the side. And but he didn't want to be mentioned. He's still on probation. He was like, no, just here's my side of the story. Here's my report, whatever. But I just want to remain anonymous. And that's kind of the way it's been with him. And I'm going to approach him again. I haven't seen him in a while, but I'm going to approach him again about your show and your and see if he'd be willing to do it. And I'll let him know. Hey, look, I did this chat with him. Keep in mind they may want to tape you. If you don't want the video part, that's up to you. But I'll see if I can get him to, because you're going to get another perspective. And this guy was a fighter pilot like you. 20 years F-15s. He was lucky enough to be in the cockpit for most of it. And I would appreciate his perspective. Yeah,
I would. It'd be scary, or I guess they don't see a big benefit. What's benefit to them or anyone? I guess. I guess that.
Yeah.
But I think it would be great to get the information out there. Have you seen any negative? Have you had any negative effects?
No, I haven't had any kickback from the company or anybody. And at this point, I'm like, I'm reaching the end of my career here. I've got less than 6 or 7 years. I'm not going to 65. I'm going to go. The plan's to go earlier. So I'm at the point where I'm not that I'm in the I don't give a S mode, but I'm like, yeah, what are they going to do? Fire me? And I'm not. I'll keep the name out of it. Call it Flight 82. Don't say anything else. And I kind of, it probably would have stayed like that until last year. The UK Daily Mail broke it open as to who we were. FedEx pilots, blah blah blah, and they threw my name out there. And I'm like, oh, those bastards, And so Bob was kind of miffed about the whole thing. And he goes, hey, Eric, do you want, you can sue them. He goes, because they plagiarized my stuff and threw it into their article, and I'm mad at them too, and blah, blah, blah. And I said, no, you know what, Bob? I make a good living. I don't have time for this. This is for the world. Because I had some of my buddies at work, they're like, sell it, man, make money, sell it, blah, 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 get yourself on social media. I'm like, man, I don't have time for that, And this is, I was just happened to be at the right place at the right time. And this is for the world, take a look at the video. Like I said, form your own opinions. He and I were not there to try and punk anybody. We're just two, airline pilots, two ex-military guys trying to make a living. And we happened to witness this incredible phenomena that to this day, I mean, just talking to you about it, Chris, I'm almost shaking, the hair standing up on my arms. I mean, it was incredible, man. I got home and I didn't even go to sleep. Next to my wife, it took me like 3 hours to go to sleep, man. I got home probably about 2 a.m. and I didn't knock out till like 5 a.m. It was 3 hours. I was just, I went to my our little media room, if you call it, and I had just bought a new Samsung TV, and I went mirror image, what do they call it, to screen mirroring, and I threw the video up on my 60-inch deal, and I'm looking at this thing going, oh my God, and it took me like 3 hours. I was on cloud 9 for about 3 days, and then I kind of just got back to normal. Even my wife was amazed.
I mean, that video really is amazing. I mean, looking at it, like, that is a legit orb, and you have multiple witnesses. I mean, like, that is,
yeah,
that's and I first saw it, I didn't know. I originally thought it was like a Cessna pilot. I don't know, I'm sorry. You were so excited,
yeah.
But then I looked into it more, and actually Danny was like, this case is just amazing. You have to look at this.
Yeah, and that's kind of what Bob said. He goes, you guys are going to be in the top 1-2% of sightings, and probably because we've never had it airborne, it's always been on the ground. And then you guys are 2 expert witnesses, because like I said, he interviewed John, and I was grateful for the experience, but I wasn't looking to get anything out of it in that respect. I'm like, whatever, I'll ride this 15 minutes, but man, I'll tell you what, I hadn't seen anything in up to that point, nearly 30 years of aviation, and to this, I could pretty much probably guarantee I'll never see anything like it again.
An amazing video, man. So where can we go to, where can the viewers go and see these videos? Is movie?
Yeah, that's what one of my buddies was saying. Is he said I should get a what is it, a YouTube account or something, and throw it all on there. But I know if you Google FedEx UFO or FedEx A2 UFO or something like that, there should be some of the clips should be on. Some of those clips are on there. The big one, the large one, I know is on the NARCAP website, narcap.org.
Okay.
And Ted Rowe, the guy that runs the whole thing, did a white paper on it. And they said apparently this, the white paper got people's interest in Washington, even the Chinese government. I mean, this thing is really escalated, especially when they declassified all this stuff last year. And you talk about videos, you guys think mine was cool? I was blown away by those F-18 guys. And the two videos, that one from, I think it was 2004 and the other one from like 2012 or something. I couldn't believe they had stuff like that was sequestered for that long. I mean, you see the Gilbert video?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Honestly, yours, the more I look at it, man, it's really an unbelievable video. I really, we should all be very thankful that you had, you had.
That's the camera, man. The camera takes the credit. That Samsung 9S had a wonderful camera. Like, I don't have that phone. I mean, I saw the phone, but I don't use it anymore. I'm on this one now that I need to get the screen fixed because obviously the other camera's broken. But thank God I have two of them, or else we wouldn't be having this chat right now. It'd be all audio. But
it's
the still shots, in my mind, the still photos were amazing as well, because through the shot you could see some surface features, almost like hexagons, like on a soccer ball. And then there's one of those still photos. It looks like a plasma ball. I mean, it's out of this world. It's amazing. I'm just like, wow.
We're other colors, because normally it was just flashy, right? I noticed.
Yes. So it wasn't until it left. When the thing decided, these guys are headed for the border. I'm out of here.
And that when you just went at 45-degree angle.
So it's about our deep 8 o'clock. And then it started pulling away laterally at first. So it took that same line, 8 o'clock line, and just started going further away. And then it went due south and it was gone. I mean, it was gone like that. I was like, damn, and there were some color changes prior to it. And I had some investigators tell me, oh, yeah, that's, I don't know how these guys know this stuff, but they were saying, oh, yeah, typically, when those guys get ready to, go into their hyper mode or hyperspace or whatever, the thing will, change and morph and do this and do that. And, did you see it? I go, dude, with my eyeballs, I'm telling you, bright dim. Now, at that point, with my eyeballs, I could tell it was like a pinkish hue, then maybe like some lavender. And that's kind of what that last video clip shows, is it starts to run away and it's changing. And at that point, I'm running the zoom. I'm trying to zoom in as fast as I can. And then I lost it. It was gone.
The thought that comes to mind as a mundane explanation would be some sort of electrical plasma ball, like you mentioned, like a ball lightning, if you've heard of that. But like you said, you saw it depart and fly off in a specific direction. I just don't see how that would even be possible.
The maneuverability of this thing is bar none. Nothing like we have, obviously, or anything I've ever seen. And that's why I was so impressed with those gimbal videos. Prior to being in aviation, I was a conservation engineer. I was a mechanical engineer for El Paso Electric Company. I got my degree at the University of Texas at El Paso. I was a mechanical engineering student. I got my degree. So then was hired by El Paso Electric, and I worked with them for about 1.5 years before I went active duty. And so I was, I knew physics, I knew stuff like that. And to see the maneuverability of this thing and what it did and how it, you're talking, several hundred miles in a few seconds. I mean, wow,
Huh, that's amazing. Well, thanks so much, Eric, for speaking out. I really think it's obviously the stigma is getting lower,
yes.
Like you said,
yes.
You haven't had any negative effects. So I hope.
No. As a matter of fact, it's refreshing to see all these videos coming out now, and people are finally like, hey, I think we've matured enough that maybe we've gone in the pantheon of our government from government cover up to maybe now just government interference. I guess, I don't know. So I would challenge anybody. Hey, if you have any of that footage, throw it out there. Don't be afraid. As long as you weren't trying to punk somebody or it was a hoax. Go out there and put it out there. And these experts and the equipment these guys have, maybe we'll learn something. Maybe we can help each other out, right? You never know.
No, that's the whole point. We're after it. So thank you so much, Eric.
That's how you shoot star.
Shooting star, but then it stopped, huh? Yeah, let me zoom in, man. It's like an orb, man. Look at that shit. It's pulsating. Oh, this is awesome. And he's not on TCAS, man.
Huh.
Well, I can tell Rita now.
That's interesting.
That is, dude. That is shit hot. Platillos, platillos. He's a pulsating orb. Look at that, dude. Look at that. Turn on the tail light. Oh, it is on. Okay, cool. Never mind. Oh man, look at that thing, dude. Flip the TCAS switch up and see if you see anything on the display on the ND. Anything? Any TCAS returns?
No.
Okay, flip the switch down. He's definitely above our altitude. Yeah, that man. This guy is not reporting TCAS. That is a unidentified flying object, bro. I can finally say I saw one now. That is cool. And it's pulsating too, man. That is nuts. Oh, I wish you would get closer. I can't believe you saw it. What's on the map below us? What city? Is it Monterrey?
We're over
So the nearest, because they tend to congregate around Monterrey. They'll get a lot of. Yeah, we're close. How close to Monterrey? We're about 150 miles from Monterrey. Oh man, that is phenomenal, dude! I'm so glad you saw that, and you saw it drop out of the sky and just stop.
I thought it was a shooting star, then it just stopped.
This is awesome, man. Oh, this is fucking cool. I had to call my brother-in-law. He lives in Puebla.
I mean, there's nothing flashing that I can see on it when you put
No,
the video.
but
It's like,
look how it pulses, though.
I know.
Here, let me zoom in. Jeez, man, that is freaky, man.
Crazy. You think it's a weather balloon? Is it thunderstorms?
No, not with lights like that.
Because it doesn't fall like that either.
No, the only weather balloon we have is near Harlingen. It's 15,000 feet AGL. This thing's above our altitude. I just can't tell. That's why I asked you to hit the TCAS, just in case it was an airplane. Dude, it's pulsing, man. Look at that.
Sí, todas las decisiones están autorizadas cuando fusil le prosiga directo justo para interceptar llegar a Retus 1 alfa a la 2 a la 11. ¿Será cuando qué presión te dijo?
Platillos.
I don't see anything on TCAS at all.
Yeah, man. And there's no strobe. I don't see a... And the fact that it dropped out of the sky like that and then stopped and hovered. He's probably just checking us out. I was going to turn on the light over there, but... Looks like he's turning away from us. That is phenomenal, man. Look at that. Yeah, they're all over Mexico, dude.
I wonder what you can do with that video. Like, if you can,
It's
I was like, shit, it just disappeared.
Where'd he go? Is he there? All right. Oh, it's the clouds.
It's in the clouds, yeah.
He's almost like he's over the weather or something.
Yeah, I know.
Oh yeah, we're gonna lose him in the clouds. Son of a bitch. Well, there it is, right there, man, on my ND. There's our airplane, and there's no TCAS. There's weather about 40 miles off our left wingtip where this thing seems to have disappeared.
Yeah, I went both directions.
Yeah, there's no TCAS returns, man. It's not an airplane. It didn't have strobes or beacon or nothing. It's my first time. I'm so excited. I can say, yeah, I've seen a UFO. I got a video.
I've always
Woo!
Come out the weather on the other side. I just casually looked over my shoulder and I'm like, oh man, he's still there. He's still there. Boom. I shut the light off again and I roll another video clip.
See, look at the shape. See it? As I zoom in, you'll get like a little bit of a teardrop.
Yeah.
So I'll film a smaller one and I'll send you that.
Alright.
Another one was 4 minutes long. That was in and out. This one will be, I'll give you a minute and then I'll sit.
Aircraft inbound from the southwest is going to be out in front of you.
Wow.
It's like strong.
Yeah, man, look at this. I'm going to zoom in some more. Hold on.
That's a good steady one. There's your minute.
All right. There you go. I want to send it to...
The radar directed to our left? Not really.
Looks like he's going further away, man. Yeah, I'm zooming in and he's pulling away, dude. And he's turning colors too. He's pulling away. Yeah, that was weird. I'll do a 30-second one, all right?
Yeah,
It's turning colors now. Are there any clouds over there? I didn't see any.
Those were the 4 Delgado videos in order. What'd you think of that interview? Amazing stuff. These are his 9 photos. I cropped each one and I didn't zoom. He actually did zoom on some of these, so hard to tell. I don't know what the debunkers can say to that. Just an amazing, amazing account. Smash that like button to share this, subscribe to get future content, and then get your name on this list and support the channel at patreon.com/Chris Lado. I upload patron exclusive videos and other backstage content. Thanks for being here. Have a great day. Peace.